Okay, so what do you love about being a counseling psychologist?
I love counseling psychology because it gives me a chance to really think holistically about people and their concerns and to think about how they've been influenced by their environment and by their historical context. It just really is a great way to think holistically about people, not only about uh, problems, but also their potentialities and their strengths. And so I love that holistic approach. And counseling psychology, when I started graduate school, we talked about people in environments. And I just find that still such a useful way to think about people's lives and my own life, about how I'm part of and influenced by my environment.
Well, awesome. So what does the average workday or week look like for you?
So that is a very interesting question because one thing I love about being a counseling psychologist faculty member is no 2 days are alike and no 2 weeks are alike. And I like that. I like it keeps it challenging and fresh and interesting. Every day I'm meeting with different students, teaching different classes, working on different research projects, and so it never, ever, ever gets boring at all. Not in, I've been doing this now for 21 years and I've never had a day that I was bored. So I love
Good,
that
that's
about it.
good.
Yeah, so every week is different. And, there's seasons in academia. So things get really busy in graduate school right about now when students are trying to finish up their dissertations and defend them. And, there's certain times of the year when we're doing graduate admissions, things like that, that can get really hectic and our
Mhm.
schedules get super, super busy and full. But it's nice to have that variety and then also have some downtime because most faculty are on 9 or 10 month contracts and get to have some time off in the summer and in academic breaks. And so I love that about how it's never the same. There's a nice cycle of the academic year.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's pretty refreshing too to be able to just relax for a little while. I know that I
Yes.
like it.
Mhm.
So what do you wish you knew before becoming a counseling psychologist?
Yeah, I was trying to give that some thought. I think in terms of what I ended up doing, which was be a faculty member, I wish I had known. It might have been helpful to know how much I would enjoy that. When I started applying for jobs, I applied for clinical positions and I applied for faculty positions, really not knowing where I would end up or what would be the best fit for me. I was just sort of putting things out there, putting my CV out there to see what happened, and I absolutely landed in the right place. And I think that tends to happen, that you just kind of find your niche. And so this position at the University of Kentucky in the counseling psych program just really did end up being my niche. And if I had known that was gonna if I had trusted, maybe that's the word, if I had trusted that I will end up in the right place where I need to be, I sure could have saved myself some anxiety
Mhm.
along the way instead of worrying about it and being anxious about it. If I could have just taken a deep breath and said, it's going to work out. I'm going to find my niche, even if I don't know what it is right now. It'll unfold as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And so there's no it doesn't help to be anxious about it. And if I could go back and tell my graduate student self that in a convincing way, it would have saved me a lot of angst.
Yeah. So did you I know this isn't on the list of questions, but did you always know that you were gonna go into counseling psychology?
No, I did not. I didn't know a thing about counseling psychology until I met a couple of professors in my master's program in community counseling who were counseling psychologists.
Mhm.
And I thought they were so amazing and cool, and I wanted to be them.
Okay.
And so that was, and at that point, that was all I knew was,
Mhm.
I want to get the same training they got because I want to be them.
Yeah.
And I really knew almost nothing about counseling psychology at the point I started looking at graduate programs.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So clinical and counseling psychologists share a lot of similarities and differences as specialties. How do you see your identity as as a counseling psychologist influencing how you are trained and approach your job duties?
Mhm.
I know that's a long question, but
Yeah, and I have sort of a convoluted answer to it. So I got my counseling psych PhD at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I was very shaped by the counseling psychologists that were on the faculty at the time. But my actual research mentor was a clinical psychologist,
okay.
and she was a brand new faculty member, Dr. Deborah Welsh, and she needed graduate students to help her get her research off and running. And I volunteered and was her first graduate student. And she took me on as her advisee, even though she was clinical psych and I was counseling psych.
Mhm.
And that was just amazing because I got trained research wise by a clinical psychologist who thought like a counseling psychologist. So
Okay.
there, so she thought the way she thought, we were studying adolescent dating relationships, and she thought holistically, and she thought developmentally, and as opposed to, we often think that clinical psychologists only think in terms of pathology,
Right.
and that's kind of a stereotype or overstatement. We really do overlap a lot in terms of the kinds of questions we're interested in and the kinds of approaches we take with clients. There's just so much overlap, and I experienced that in my own training,
Mhm.
that it was seamless to be in a counseling psych program and work with a clinical psychologist to get my research training.